You know, sometimes history hands you a story about an impossible choice, a choice that blurs the line between right and wrong. This is one of those stories. It's about a man who was sworn to peace but took up a weapon, a saint who became an assassin, and it's about an empire that, in a way, had to be destroyed in order to be saved.
Our story really kicks off on one single, fateful day, a day that would change the course of Tibetan history forever. So picture this, the year is 842. We're at the royal palace in Lhasa. A man dressed in a long, flowing black robe is walking right up to the front gate. He's a monk, and the guards, well, they just wave him through. I mean, what's the harm? Monks aren't a threat, right?
Inside, a huge crowd has gathered. They're all there to see a ceremonial dance, a sacred ritual. And seated right there on his throne is the king himself, arguably the most powerful man in all of Asia. And that monk in black, he steps right into the center of the room, and he begins to dance. The dance is mesmerizing, slow, deliberate. His long black robes are just sweeping across the floor. But nobody in that room can see what's hidden deep inside the folds of his costume: a bow and an arrow. And that brings us to the big question. Why on earth would a man whose entire faith forbids killing even an insect bring a deadly weapon into the very heart of the empire? To answer that, we've got to rewind a little. We need to understand what Tibet was really like back in the 9th century. Because the image we have today of this peaceful spiritual place, well, it's true, but it's only a tiny part of the story.
Okay, so in the 800s, Tibet was an absolute powerhouse, a massive military empire. We're talking about armies so strong, they actually captured the capital of China in 762. And at its peak, the Tibetan Empire stretched all the way from Afghanistan across the Silk Road deep into China. This was a global superpower.
Let that just sink in for a second. The Great Tang Dynasty, one of the most brilliant and powerful forces in the world at the time, was forced to pay tribute to Tibet. That just goes to show you how incredibly dominant this empire really was.
So what held this massive empire together? Well, two things, really. Its military might and Buddhism. Under a king named Rinpoche, Buddhism wasn't just a religion, it was official state policy. The government funded the monasteries, monks held real political power. The faith itself was the cultural glue holding this huge, diverse territory together. It was, quite literally, the spine of the empire. But then, in 838, everything changed. King Rinpoche was murdered, and his brother Langdharma seized the throne. And for some reason, he turned violently against the very foundation of his own empire. He ordered monasteries to be shut down. Sacred Buddhist texts were piled high and just burned. Monks and nuns were humiliated, forced to break their vows and marry, and if they refused, they were exiled or executed.
So imagine you're a monk, hiding, watching all of this happen. Everything you hold sacred, your traditions, your teachers, your entire world is being turned to ash. What do? This brings us back to one man, Lalung Pelgi Dorji, and the terrible choice he was about to make.
See, before he was a monk, Pelgi Dorje was a soldier. He'd seen brutal combat on the front lines against China. But one day on the battlefield, he had this profound revelation, and he just put down his weapons, for good. He went to a monastery, took the Bodhisattva vow, which is a solemn promise to dedicate your life to the well-being of all living things, and then he retreated to a cave to just meditate. And it was there, in that quiet cave, that news of Langdharma's brutal persecution reached him. And he had to wrestle with this incredible question. The very first rule of Buddhism is absolute: do not kill. But what if one man is causing the suffering and death of thousands? What if he's destroying the very soul of your culture? Does stopping him, even with violence, somehow become the most compassionate thing you can do? He made his decision. And the plan he came up with, well, it was as brilliant as it was bold. Pelgi Dorji knew the king was a fan of a ritual called the Black Hat Dance. That was his way in. He got a reversible robe, black on one side, white on the other. Then he took a white horse and covered it from head to tail in black charcoal. With his bow and arrow hidden in his long sleeves, he rode to Lhasa and simply joined the performance. He danced closer and closer until he was right in front of the king. The arrow flew. In the chaos that erupted, Pelgi Dorji ran to his horse and rode as fast as he could for the nearest river. As the horse plunged into the water, you can just imagine these clouds of black charcoal washing away, revealing its true white coat underneath.
At the same time, he flips his robe to the white side. The king's soldiers are looking for a man in black on a black horse. All they see is a man in white on a white horse, riding away. He just vanished.
So, Pelgi Dorje did it. He killed the tyrant, he saved his faith, his people, his homeland. A hero, right? Well, this is where the story takes a tragic and completely unexpected twist.
Instead of saving Tibet, the assassination shattered it. With no king on the throne, the royal family just fell apart. Lungdharma's sons fought each other for power. Regional warlords saw their chance and seized control, and the once mighty empire fractured into dozens of tiny, warring kingdoms. Historians now call this the era of fragmentation.
The greatest empire Tibet had ever built, the superpower that had brought China to its knees, was just gone. And it would never be unified in that way ever again.
So how are we supposed to look back on this? Was it all worth it? The legacy of Pelgi Dorje is just, well, it's a profound contradiction.
And here's the final complicated trade-off. On the one hand, Buddhism in Tibet was saved from being completely wiped out. Monks eventually came out of hiding, they recovered hidden texts, and about a century later, the faith had this incredible revival. But the unified empire, the political powerhouse, that was lost forever.
And here's the final, beautiful irony. Today, in monasteries all across the Himalayas, monks perform that very same black hat dance, the one Pelgi Dorje used as a cover for an assassination. It's now considered a sacred ritual, a dance that is said to cast out evil spirits. The monk who became an assassin is now remembered as a saint. His story leaves us with a question that's just as tangled today as it was over 1,000 years ago. Was his act a necessary evil, or was it a tragic mistake? Was it Lolong Pelgi Dorje a sinner or a saint? I guess that's something history leaves for us to decide.
If you enjoy digging into these forgotten stories, these strange and untold parts of history, then please consider supporting this channel. Liking, sharing, it really helps a young creator like me.